Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 42. And I thought I would do a special video here leading into the finale week, as we've got 6 people left in the game right now, and any of them could still win this game in theory. But practically, who are those players currently that I think have the best chance of actually taking this thing out? That's what we're going to be discussing in this video. And also, just before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and liking this video. 70% of the people that are watching our videos currently are not subscribed to the channel. I hope that today is the day that I earn that subscription from you, because we've got plenty more content coming in. Survivor might be coming to an end. We've got the challenge content currently that I'm recapping. Survivor South Africa should be around the corner. We're probably going to hear news pretty soon in regards to when that is going to premiere, but I do suspect that we will see that probably premiere around July this year. So there's going to be a lot of content for that, and we're also going to be doing some off-season content for Survivor US over the next couple of months before we get into Survivor 43. But without further ado, let's have a look at the players that are currently still left in the game. And for this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into different categories. So who are the players that I think has got absolutely no shot at winning this game at the moment? Who do I think is currently middle of the road? And who do I think is the most likely or probable winners for Survivor 42? So let's get into it. We're going to be using the Survivor Wiki page here to look at each one of these players that are still left currently in the game. If you've never seen this before, I'd be shocked, but Survivor Wiki is a wealth of information and knowledge for those that are big fans of the show. So go and check that out. We have got currently, with Omar being the 6th jury member here, we've got 6 players left in the game. So we've got Jonathan, Lindsay, Marianne, Mike, and Romeo. So who's who in the zoo? Well, let's start off with the player that I think don't have any chance at winning this season. And Romeo is the last player from the Ika tribe that is still left in the game. He has outlasted a lot of players in that tribe that were a lot more impressive than himself. For instance, some people would say that Tori wasn't the greatest of players, but she was exciting. She did win a lot of immunities early on in the game, and in my opinion, she was a likable villain. I do like the female villains in the game, and I wouldn't mind seeing her back. And then obviously you've got Drea, who was another likable villain, probably a hero to other people who really shouted for her, but I really enjoyed Drea. Potentially she was my favorite player for the season. They were the 2 big players, and then Rox obviously was also voted out after the merge, but Romeo has survived. He's gotten to this point in the game, but what has Romeo done in the game right now to actually earn a vote? It seemed like he tried to take control early on at the merge stage. He thought he had a bigger or better relationship with High than what he had. Clearly things happened between him and High that was off screen that we didn't see, because they really had a falling out and couldn't work together long term in the game. His closest ally, Andrea, didn't want to work with him, and she was happy to sacrifice him. And it really didn't look like he's been able to make those social connections with a lot of people that are out there in the game, which for us as audience members, we can only speculate as to what happened. We haven't actually seen what is the thing that made them not like him. I know we do get that scene where he's sitting by the pot and he's eating out of it, and Mike saying that's been his best move throughout the season, really shading him. But again, is that really the main thing that's making people not want to vote for Romeo? I feel like there's a lot more going on here that we're not privy to. So I don't see any world where Romeo goes to the end and he wins this season. I do think, however, he is extremely likely to make it to the end, because people want to sit next to him at the end. I don't think he gets any votes at the end. Okay, so let's move into the people that I think are likely to still have a chance at winning this game. I don't think she will be winning it this season, but Lindsay is someone that I think is really liked by people on the jury. They were all very happy for her when she didn't get eliminated in the do or die twist. She also came up with a great strategic plan to get the idol away from Mike so that they could blindside Drea in a very key move. Yes, that's right. She was the mastermind behind it. Omar was the person who went out there and actually executed it due to the relationship that he had with Mike. I do think that if Lindsay gets to the end of this game, that is a move that she can claim, even though Omar was the more visible person who made that big move on such a big threat as Drea in the game. I do think Lindsay, if she's good enough, she can tell the jury about it. The problem with Lindsay is, to me, she comes across as someone that is good at the social game, good at making these connections and strategical moves, but I don't think she's the biggest fan of the show. I could be wrong, but I think if she gets to the end, can she articulate what she did? Because a lot of what she's done has been behind the cameras. It's not been a flashy game whatsoever, outside of her winning a lot of immunities, obviously, in the game, which has been impressive. And I will give her credit. She's done so against a Goliath of a person like Jonathan this season, and all the credit should go for her. I really like Lindsay. I like the fighting spirit that she has and the fact that she has got no quit in her. But I just don't think that she's going to get to the end and win this season. I feel like we would have seen, edit-wise, a lot more of her. She was kind of non-existent prior to the merge, and she's become a bigger player over the towards the latter stage of the merge. They started giving her more and more content, and we now know more about what she's thinking and her rivalry with Jonathan. But I think she's too focused on Jonathan at this stage, and not enough focus is going on to actually get to the end of the game and win the show. So for me, she's a maybe, and the reason she's a maybe and not a no chance is because I do think that if you compare her to other winners in the past who've had way less of an edit than her, I think she's actually got a more impressive edit than a lot of people we've seen win the show when they are female in the game. So I would not count Lindsay out completely as of yet. All right, let's get into Jonathan. And I know this one is going to be controversial because half of the people and the public in the US loves him, the other half hates him. He's a polarizing character for some other reason. And I think that a lot of it doesn't even have to do with who he is as a person. I think people just look at Jonathan and they see things in him that they may not like in society. And, they automatically put him as the person that represents a lot of things that they don't like, which I feel like is unfair to Jonathan as a player. He hasn't done anything that bad that we as audience members have seen. Yes, he's had arguments with Drea. He's had arguments with Marianne. He's had an argument with Lindsay. And obviously those are all females. And I understand people are like, oh, he's a big guy, shouldn't be arguing with women. Well, I think he's very aware of the fact that those arguments doesn't look good on him. He's been really aware of how he's being perceived in the jury and all of that. But I also think that we're seeing the arguments that he's involved with a lot more than other people on the show for a reason. And that is probably because he's not going to win. But I guarantee you that is happening between other people outside there as well. Think about it. You're out there on the island for 26 days now, not 39, sadly, but you're out there for a long time and you don't have food. You're deprived of food. You're sleeping out in the rain. You're miserable. And he's gotten upset for legitimate reasons in the past. I don't feel like he's been completely unreasonable. Now, strategically, they did also show his flaw in trying to use Marianne as a decoy, and they could have lost Marianne, and Lindsay had to pull him back from that. So they're showing us his flaws, but he does seem to be very socially aware. I mean, he knew Omar and Lindsay was coming for him. He knew he had to change gears to get Omar out of the game, and that Omar was probably the biggest player to win the game after the move that he made, and he knew that he needed to keep it a secret that he was upset about that. All of those things worked out for him, and I think he's playing a bigger game than what we're actually seeing on the TV show. I don't want to count him out yet. I think he's still a very maybe potential candidate that could go to the end and win it. I don't think, however, though, it's likely, but I can't put him into the has absolutely no chance to win this season vibe. Overall, though, Jonathan is not the challenge beast yet that we've been promised this whole season. He was phenomenal at the team portion of the game, but after the merge, he's only won 2 immunities, individual immunities, and that doesn't even put him in the top 10 of previous people that have played this game. So he needs to win the next 2 to win 4, I believe. I do think he's got a chance. I think there's a big chance he gets to the finale because whoever between him and Lindsay doesn't win next, I believe, will go. And it's why I've got them in the maybe bracket. I would probably put Lindsay slightly ahead of Jonathan as someone that could win this game. Overall, I don't think he deserves some of the backlash that he's gotten. I'm probably more team Jonathan than not. Now, if he's done anything out on the island that is really that bad and comes out in the exit interviews, I will retract that. But for now, innocent until proven guilty. So I'm still team Jonathan, and I don't see an issue with him having arguments with people. That has happened forever on Survivor, and this is not new. And like I said, I think other people out there are having some arguments that we're not privy to as well. Now, as you can see, we've got the two people there that probably could win this game still. They're in the maybe bracket. We've got Romeo, who is completely out of it. There's two players we have not spoken about, and these two players, I believe, have got the best shot at winning this season, and that will be both Mike and Marianne. So let's talk about those two next. All right, let's start off with Mike, the original Vati tribe member, the last remaining Vati tribe member, I should say, in the game at this point. I think Mike at this point in the game is the second most likely person to win this game. I can see a lot of flaws, though, in his gameplay as well, which the edit has clearly shown us at times. He's been emotional. He was manipulated by Omar to take High out, to become someone that Omar could use as a tool in the game. And it does feel like he lets his emotions kind of run away with him sometimes when it comes to making key strategic decisions within the game. However, Mike has from the start been very good at maneuvering and getting with the numbers to take other people out of the game. That's why he's the last remaining Vati member at this point. And he's got an absolutely killer social game. If you had to ask me, based on the editor TV show that we've seen so far, who's got the best social game out there, you'd have to say it's Mike, because he just seems to connect with so many different people out on the island about different things. And I think that it's something that is really powerful in a game such as Survivor, where you've got this final tribal council with the jury members, where people have to vote for someone they actually like in the game, as well as hopefully they played a good strategic game. And I think he's got an argument to make. He got to the end, and he's always been with the numbers. He's always known where the votes have gone. He's always known where the votes went. In the previous episode, obviously, he did end up voting in a different direction for Romeo, but that was also a part of the plan, which he can say he was a part of that plan. In fact, he was the one who brought it up to Marianne that they needed to blindside Omar. So I don't think he's completely out of it. The big problem for me with Mike, and why I think Marianne has got a slightly better chance to win the game than him, is that I think his strength of building very deep and valuable connections with people will come back to haunt him at the end, because he made such great connections and friendships with people. I do think that they might hold that against him. For instance, he had to turn his back on someone like a Roxroy, who might feel aggrieved by that. He had to turn his back on High, who may not feel too happy about the fact that he was never going to come after Mike in the first place. So you never want a jury to vote based on bitter feelings, but those two things could come back to haunt him due to the fact that he's got such a great social game. So I'm a little bit worried for Mike here going into the end, but you've got to say, he's definitely been the biggest narrator left in the game when it comes to the strategic thinking of why certain people had to go in a certain order now that the Omar is out of the game. And he definitely recognized Omar as the biggest threat. It's just, can he put together a great final tribal council and do something like Chris Daughtry did back in Vanuatu, where he had to talk to people who he built these very deep connections with, who felt really burned by him. And the other problem is, he's not going to be sitting next to someone like Chris did in that end, that he could easily, that isn't likable. I think that he's got a lot of likable people in, say, Lindsay and also Marianne still left in the game. So it's going to be a very, very tough ask for him to win the game, but he's also got an idol in his pocket for this next round. So I think it's very likely we see him progress through to the final four and then potentially progress through to the end of the game. I also wish we saw a little bit more of him and Jonathan's relationship, because it does seem like, we've seen that they're close, but it seems like they're even closer than what the edit has shown us. And I'm interested to know why we haven't seen more of that. All right, let's get into the person who I think has got the best chance of winning this season. It's going to be Marianne. Marianne has been a bit of a sleeper throughout this season. From the beginning of the show, we followed her story. We got a lot of screen time from the Taku tribe, to the point where I thought from the beginning, myself and my co-hosts and guests that we've had on the podcast this season have said that there has to be a reason they're showing us so much of Taku. Even when they're not winning or they're not voting someone out, we're getting to go to their camp, especially thinking back about the reward challenge in one of those episodes that they didn't go to the I guess when they didn't go to tribal council. We saw a lot of Taku and what was happening at the Taku beach, and therefore we thought someone from Taku would probably win. For the longest period of time, the editors have really built up Omar as the big strategic mastermind of this game and probably the best player. So I felt like they built Omar up to this degree where we saw all of his moves and we saw his point of view on taking people out of the game, because we as an audience needed to understand how big of a move it was when Marianne played her extra vote with Romeo to take Omar out. And I do think that the jury's going to look at this and say, wow, Marianne, we've underestimated her. She's a bubbly personality. She's got a lot of energy. She's not big in stature. She didn't make any big moves, but she was waiting for her opportunity to make a move on the biggest player in the game. And I think it's going to give her a lot of street credit or survivor credit in the game. And people will want to vote for her when she gets there. I think there's also bigger conversations happening in Survivor when it comes to diversity and representation. We saw a very snippet of that in one of the earlier episodes where she had to play her idol, or she felt like she had to play her idol because of the culture, and it was a lot bigger than the game itself, and she didn't want people to think that she was going to stay in the game just based on that. And I definitely don't want to paint the picture that she would only win the show based on that either, but I do think that that is going to come into play if she makes it to the final. They're going to look for a reason to give it to someone like Marianne. There has not been a black female that have won this show since all the way back in season 4 when Miss Sepia won the show. So that's a long time ago, right? So they're looking for a reason to give her the win here. And I think she's doing a lot of things right to deserve the win. I do think she will be the strongest winner that we've seen in this new format of Survivor. No disrespect to Erica, because we didn't see a lot of her in the edit. I really have enjoyed Marianne as a character. In the beginning, I completely underestimated her, and I thought she was only there as a character. But I do now think that the story that we've been watching has been Marianne's story the whole time. And I think she's going to get to the end and win the show. That's my thoughts in any case on who I think will win this season of Survivor 42. I am excited. I can't wait to see who wins it. I can't wait to dive into it with Jake and potentially a special guest here on our podcast. If you like this video and you want to see more short form content in the future as we head into the off season, please consider subscribing. Like I mentioned, please consider liking this video, and like always, catch you guys next time.